guitar player, I'm always on the lookout for cool ways to play chords. Taking something simple, making a few tweaks, and really making it your own. And today I want to show you a concept that can transform your plain old A major chord into something much more interesting. And my goal isn't just to show you some trick. I want to give you new ideas to work on, whether you're writing your own chord progressions or trying to even learn songs by ear. The only difference between me and you is I've learned 1,000 little simple things like this. And when I listen to music, instead of hearing one big complicated thing, I understand that it's actually made up a few of these simple things like I'm about to show you today. Let me just demonstrate what we'll be learning today. There are two common ways to play the A chord. When you're starting out, most of us stack our fingers like this in the traditional way, try to squeeze them all there on the second fret and get them to all ring cleanly. But as we get more comfortable on guitar, we often switch to using a single finger for the A chord. It's quicker, cleaner, and while you do lose the thinnest string generally, it's a worthwhile trade-off in many situations. I'm going to show you today how to use both those shapes to their full potential. First, let's stick with the basic A shape. We're basically going to take this shape and then change the root note to add some variety. So I'm starting off on my A chord and I'm going to pick the root. That's the open A string. And then do a pattern. I'm doing the most common strumming pattern ever, except for the very first thing on beat 1. I'm just picking the root only. So down, down, up, up, down, up. And then I'm going to take my index finger and I'm going to put it onto the second fret of the thickest string. That's the note F sharp. So this technically makes A over F sharp. Do the same thing. Pick the root note. In this case now it's on the E string. It's my F sharp note. And it's important to mute the correct strings as you're doing this. When I put my index here, it's automatically going to be muting the A string. And my thinnest string is going to be muted by the underside, like the very base of my index finger. So my index finger is doing a lot of work under the, there's a lot going on under the hood here. Then we're going to move our index to the second fret of the A string. That's the note B. And my index is a little high so that it can mute the thickest string. And I'm going to aim for that second fret of the A string and then do my pattern. And then I'm going to move my index finger down to the first fret of the thickest string. That's the note F. And same deal. It's muting the A string. The thinnest string's also muted. And that's it. We just go through that progression, picking a different root note every time we strum. And by the way, all this stuff is in a worksheet, so you can take your time, learn it at your own pace in the event that I am going a little too quick, because I have a lot of stuff to show you guys. Anyways, as always, the most important step is to experiment with things. You don't want to just memorize it. You want to work on it a little bit, but then you want to try to have some fun with it. Maybe use a strumming pattern that's more comfortable for you. Maybe play each chord a little bit longer. Find something that works for you so that you can feel musical as you're doing this thing. Make sure that your technique is good. You're not picking too hard. All the notes are ringing out, all that kind of stuff, but being musical is also very important. And then you can take this a step further. You can start to pick out individual notes by making your motions smaller. You're not necessarily aiming at any particular string. I'm just kind of, instead of strumming big strums, I'm making some of my motions smaller. In this case, the upstrokes. So I'm picking my root down, and then this upstroke, I'm kind of just aiming here. Maybe I'll get the B string, maybe I'll get the G string, whatever, right? I'm just kind of doing a small motion. Root, down, up, and then a down, up at the end. like that. And if you at first just aim for those areas, eventually the accuracy will build up and you will be able to nail particular notes like I have in the tab up there, you know, and you end up getting this really cool like you know, the same two notes recur through this entire chord progression, and it adds this really cool layer. It's kind of like orchestral, you know, or it's compositional at that point. You're not just strumming chords anymore, you're making a guitar part. Either way, that's a really cool thing you can do with this version of A. Now, if we switch to the single finger version of A, we can reach up. You know, with this one, we're kind of limited. We can't really reach too high up the fretboard because all our fingers are playing the chord. But here, since we're only using one finger for that shape, our other three fingers are free to do some really cool stuff. And there I'm just strumming my chord, you know, down, down, up, and then using my middle finger to play the third fret of the thickest string, giving it a slight bend, and then back to my chord. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1 and 2, and then I'm going third fret of the A string. You know, and you can just see it all up there. I have this in a worksheet, so you can check that out, learn this all at your own pace. So you just look at that, see how it all lines up with the counting. That's the most important part, is that you're counting it out loud, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you know, and you take your time. I have that worksheet, or you can just pause the video and just look through it, you know, and take your time. And just for fun, I want to try one more. This one's definitely a stretch. It's really going to work out your pinky. So I have my A shape, and then I'm reaching all the way to the 5th fret of the D string with my pinky. And just picking through it. Picking the A string, the D string, and then doing like a down, down, up strumming thing, kind of on the middle strings. And then I'll go to my ring finger on the 4th fret of the A string, same deal. And then my ring finger goes to the 4th fret of the thickest string, root, down, root, and then I switch to the 2nd fret. I'm using my middle finger. That way I can still have my index down. And this is kind of complicated, but this is definitely something that's going to improve your technique. Just don't go too hard for too long. You know, you could even try it on an electric guitar. I play electric guitar a lot more than I play acoustic. So this is actually even starting to strain me a little bit, right? So I'm gonna take a break from it. Either way, I don't wanna get too crazy. At the end of the day, this entire concept revolves around a single chord and a simple approach of just taking that chord and changing one thing about it. You know, in this case, we're changing the root of the chord and making sort of like a bass line or a melody underneath our chord shape. You know, music, at the end of the day, is all about simplicity. Even the most complex ideas are just a few simple concepts put together. And that applies to the learning process too, you know, to do this in a simple way. The examples in this lesson kind of escalated. The first ones are obviously easier, especially than that last one. Anyways, if you enjoy learning guitar with me, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. I have a bunch of premium courses if you're interested in diving a little bit deeper. They're going to help you reach your guitar goals much faster. I'll put a link in the description for all that, along with the worksheet for this lesson. Have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.